Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is Monotui, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today I'm bringing you guys our Week 4 match for GBA Season 7. This week we are going up against ItzGator, coach of the Florida Gatrs. If you've not done so already, please check out his YouTube link in the description below. He is a very good competitive battler, even though he's relatively inexperienced in draft format. A lot of that standard ability comes into play once you transition over to league format, so he is definitely a threat, and I have to consider him one. So he is very scary, and he has a very scary team to back it up. Speaking of teams, let's get into a little bit of a team breakdown. His team consists of Latios, Diggersby, Heatran, Whimsicott, Komala, and Howlucha. So about the team I expected, although I'm kind of surprised and very, very happy to not see Mammothline. That thing is just a very, very big threat with its dual stab. It could even run like HP Flying to 2-hit KO Buzzwole. It could have had Stone Edge for the Mantine. It was just a very scary Pokemon overall. I'm very glad he did not bring it. However, for a quick rundown of our team, we have our Roserade with Spikes and Toxic Spikes. We have our physically defensive Buzzwole. We have our Choice Scarf Jirachi. We have our Choice Specs Greninja. We have our Max Attack, Max HP Coil Zygarde. And we have our physically defensive Mantine. So let's just hop into the game real quick. I actually decided to lead with my Roserade because I want to try and start setting up hazards as early as possible. And it has a good matchup versus possible lead Diggersby, and it has a possibly good matchup against like a Whimsicott. But as you can see here, he's going to actually lead with his Latios, as I'm going to lead with my Roserade. So this is not a very good matchup for me. I'm going to be forced out, and I am going to hard switch out into my Jirachi. Even though he could go for something like Shadow Ball, I don't expect Gator to go for a turn 1 prediction, so like I said, I'm just going to go out into my Jirachi. I'm going to easily be able to take the Psyshock, and then I'll be able to gain myself some initiative with the U-turn. So, as you're going to see here, he is going to withdraw, as he's pretty much forced to, and he is going to go right out into his Heatran, which is there to deal with this thing. However, like I said, going for U-turn, I will be able to gain initiative against him. And what I can actually do now is go out into my Specs Greninja and basically pick up a kill. There's absolutely nothing on his team that wants to happily take a Specs Hydro Pump, including this Heatran. This Heatran, if it's fully specially defensive, actually has a very good chance to live Hydro Pump, but if it's not, then it will go down to this Hydro Pump. And even Whimsicott does not want to switch in on this attack. So I'm going to go right for that Hydro Pump. This Choice Specs Hydro Pump, and as you're going to see here, he just clean goes down. He was not max Spadef. I'm not exactly sure what he was, but it doesn't matter. That Heatran is gone. He does not have rocks on his team anymore. And now he has absolutely no Steel Resist, so Jirachi has just become an instant threat. So now what I can do is just switch out as he sends out his Whimsicott. I think he might be going for the U-turn, but there isn't really anything I can do about that, so he's just going to go for the U-turn, get himself some initiative right back, and now with my Roserade in, he has a very safe switch into his Howlucha, which as you can see here is going to come in and threaten me out immediately because there's not really much I can do to this thing, particularly if I'm dead before I'm able to do anything. So I'm going to go right back out into my Mantine. It's the best thing I have to go into, unless, especially like if he goes for a sub or something along those lines, or goes for a high jump kick expecting something to want to come in. Acrobatics is going to go off. It's not boosted, he still has his items, so it's not going to be doing a lot to me, and what I can do is just fire off a safe Scald. It'll be doing damage to Howlucha. It can possibly snag a burn on his incoming Latios, which is exactly wants to come in, and as you're going to see here, this damage is not a lot, it's not going to be doing a lot, and I'm not going to be able to get the burn. However, I am getting some leftovers recovery back, and I can scout out this Latios a little bit. What I'm going to do here is go for the Toxic. I wasn't sure if he had Thunderbolt, but decided to risk it right here, and thankfully I do decide to risk it because he's going to go for the Thunder Wave. He unfortunately misses, as I'm going to land a Toxic against this Latios. So had I gone back out into my Jirachi like I did turn 1, and he hit that Thunder Wave onto it, that would have been really, really bad for my Jirachi, because that's, like I said, it's pretty much the biggest threat against this team at this point. It's Scarf, it outspeeds everything, it does not have a good Iron Head switching at this point. That would have been a serious problem for me, but I did decide to stay in. Had he hit the Thunder Wave on Mantine, it probably wouldn't have mattered too much, but it could have been very, very annoying. Here what he's going to do is go right back out into his, or he's going to go right out into his Komala onto the Scald. I'm thinking he probably doesn't have Thunderbolt at this point, because he would have gone for it in order to knock me out. So that's nice for me, knowing that he doesn't have that. But what I can actually do now against this Komala is hard switch into my Buzzwole, because no matter what he wants to do, I'll be able to take it. He wants to go for a Wish, I can hit something really hard with Leech Life. As you can see here, however, he just decides to go right for the U-turn. Still a good play, because once again, he will be able to gain himself some initiative, and once again, the very big threat that is Hawlucha will be able to come in on my Buzzwole, and I'm not going to be super happy about that because even though I can take an Acrobatics, I can't really do much back to this thing. Like, I have Hammer on Leech Life sub Roost, so I can't really touch this thing. So I'm going to have to go back out into my Mantine and basically just try and take this thing on. He's going to go for the sub, which I was a little bit scared about, but I figured if he had Swords Dance and he went for it here, I would still be in an okay position. I was kind of afraid of like a Power Herb Sky Attack, but that's not what's going to end up coming out. He's just going to go for the Acrobatics as I'm going to go for the Scald. Once again, the Acrobatics is not boosted by anything at this point, so I will be able to take it relatively well. And this Scald will easily be able to break this Hawlucha's sub. So we're still in an okay position. We're still up 6-5. He is gaining himself some initiative though with the constant U-turns from Whimsicott as well as Komala, so I have to be very careful of that. But at this point, it seems like I do have responses to everything that he has. So he's going to switch into his Latios, and I'm going to pull a double out into my Zygarde, actually expecting him to want to go out into his Komala, because with Komala, he would have been able to take whatever Mantine wanted to do and then U-turn out, gaining himself some initiative. However, I'm going to go out into my Zygarde expecting that, and he's going to go out into his Latios instead to take the Scald, which I didn't think he'd go into immediately because he'd be taking more Scald damage and more toxic damage, but still a fine play. He would have been able to take the Scald very well and threaten me offensively. As you're going to see here, the Draco Meteor is going to come out. It's going to hit my Mantine, and it's going to do an absolute crap ton of damage. However, even though it looks like, from the damage that the first one did, it looks like he's going to be able to knock me out with the second one, I think because we were on Wi-Fi and he doesn't know exactly how much that did to me. Sorry. I don't think he knows that he's going to be able to knock me out with the second one. So he's actually going to be able to switch out, which allows me to get off a Roost and allows my Mantine to get very healthy once again, which is very nice. He's going to hard switch out into Diggersby. Very smart play because he knew that I had to go for Roost on that turn. So now he can threaten me with either a very powerful Return or Frustration, or go for a Wild Charge to just straight up knock me out. However, what I do have on my team to deal with this is my physically defensive Buzzwole, and that is exactly what I'm going to go out into. And you are going to see that physically defensive Buzzwole, despite the fact that this is a huge power Diggersby, doesn't really care that it's a huge power Diggersby, because it's able to take that hit easily. Judging by that damage, it looks like he's not a boosting item, but he's an Adamant nature, so I'm thinking probably something along the lines of an Adamant Scarf that would be able to outspeed my Greninja and threaten me quite a bit, outspeed a lot of my team, do a lot of damage to me. However, what this allows me to do, because I know he has to switch out, is I'm just going to go right for the Leech Life. If he did decide to go for a Return, the Leech Life would have been able to put me out of range of another Return afterwards, or Frustration rather, and going for this Leech Life does allow me to get some decent damage off onto this Whimsicott, which is very nice because this Whimsicott is the one thing that can kind of take on my Greninja, and it may have something along the lines of Stun Spore for my Jirachi, so I have to be very careful of that. Here I'm going to make an interesting play. I'm going to stay in knowing I can live the Moonblast, because based on the Leech Life damage, it looks like he's close to max HP, meaning that he's not offensive. So if he's uninvested in special attack, I do live this Moonblast 100%. But I also kind of expected him to go for U-turn. He was a little bit on the back foot in this game at this point in time, so I figured he would go for the U-turn once again to try and gain himself some initiative as I went into Roserade, so I didn't expect the Moonblast, just because me going into Roserade gained me some momentum. But once again, it wasn't too risky for me because I knew I lived the Moonblast, assuming that I got my calcs correctly. So as you're going to see here, he is going to go for the Moonblast. We are going to be able to live it, and we're going to be able to get a lot of damage off onto him with the Leech Life, as well as recover some HP for ourselves. Special attack drop, obviously super not important. Leech Life's going to go off, going to get some more damage off onto this Whimsicott, going to heal myself, and even though I'm at a relatively low amount of HP, I can actually still live after leftovers. I can still live a Frustration from the Diggersby, so if I get a free switch into this on the Diggersby, I will be able to Roost up. Also, I can always Roost up versus the Komala. I can still hard switch into that thing, and there's nothing he can do about it, except for go for U-turn. So what I'm going to do here is, expecting him to go for another Moonblast, I'm just going to go right back out into my Roserade. I do get that call right. He did not make the very aggressive play going for U-turn, risking me wanting to go for Roost or something along those lines. So now what I can do with my Roserade is just set up a layer of spikes and start getting some chip damage onto whatever wants to switch in on his team. So as you're going to see here, he is forced out. He's going to hard switch instead of U-turn in case I'm Scarf, smart play, and he is going to hard switch right back out into his Komala. And like I said, this is very good for me, because now he has the option of either going for Rapid Spin, getting rid of my spikes, or going for U-turn to gain himself initiative. If he goes for Rapid Spin as I go into my Buzzwole, which is exactly the play I'm going to make, I will be able to not only Roost, or I not only have the possibility to Roost, but I can also click Leech Life and do a lot of damage to whatever wants to come in. If he goes for U-turn, like he did, now he's going to gain some initiative, but the spikes that are on his side of the field are now there to stay for now. So he's going to go back out into his Lucha after going for the U-turn. I don't want to stay in versus this thing, Buzzwole, even though it is kind of low right now. Like I said, I can roost up versus the Diggersby, and I can roost up versus the Komala. It still has use, so I'm going to go right back out into my Mantine, which is at a relatively good amount of HP, which can take this thing on relatively well. As you're going to see here, Acrobatics is going to come out. Not going to be doing a lot of damage to me, and what I can do is just go for Scald, trying to get a burn on this thing, or possibly trying to hit something else that wants to come in for some damage. As you're going to see here, he's going to make a pretty risky play and go for the Swords Dance. I say risky because obviously Scald has that chance to burn, and he wouldn't be able to knock me out if I did get the burn. Scald's going to come out, going to do a decent amount of damage. He is going to reveal the Citrus Berry, activate his Unburden, get himself to a little bit above 50%, and now something on my team basically has to die, because I have absolutely nothing on my team that wants to take this attack. I think Mantine can take it, but I want to keep this thing healthy at the moment because I realize it walls a good majority of his team. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sack off my Roserade. It got up a spike, like I said in my team builder, even though it could have done more, I would be totally happy if that was all that it did, is just get up a single spike, because that layer of spikes is going to be very useful against his team. So we're going to sack off the Roserade, and we're going to go out into our Zygarde, just to hit this thing with 2 extreme speeds and knock it out. I could go right for the 1,000 arrows and knock it out after taking a +2 high jump kick, because Adamant +2 high jump kick does not knock me out from full. But if he crit me on this turn, and I wasn't able to get any damage off onto him, I would need multiple hits from Water Shuriken on my Greninja in order to knock this thing out, and I didn't want to risk that. So instead I decided to go for 2 extreme speeds, because even then, I'll go for the extreme speed, I'll put him in guaranteed range of Water Shuriken, and then he crits me and kills me. Critting me and killing me still sucks, because Zygarde is very useful. However, it sucks a lot less than losing my Zygarde for absolutely nothing. So, as you're going to see here, Zygarde's going to come out, Aura Break's going to happen. He's going to go for the high jump kick. Like I said, I can take this relatively well. Well, I'm going to go for extreme speed. Just do a lot of damage to him. I can take this. However, he's going to unfortunately miss. And you're going to see that miss definitely sucks. It may not have mattered too much at the outcome of this game, but just the fact that I have still a full health Zygarde on my team is super nice just to know. Like, I'm not in range of -2 Draco Meteor from Latios. I can still take on the Komala easily, so just having this thing at full health is just really good for my peace of mind. And it's definitely not good for Gator, because I imagine that's very frustrating for him, because he would have been able to get a lot of damage off onto the Zygarde, which is definitely something he would have wanted. So again, that definitely sucks for him. I'm going to switch out into my Mantine, as this Latios is actually going to go for Trick. Good on his part, going for the Trick and crippling my Mantine, because he recognized that this thing walled a lot of his team. However, because he revealed that he was actually Scarf, now this means that my Jirachi 100% outspeeds everything on his team. Which is very, very good, because now I can just spam Iron Head, and assuming I get a few flinches, I'll just be able to spam Iron Head, flinch everything down, and win. But as you can see here, because my Mantine is crippled with the Choice Scarf now, I'm just going to click Scald against this thing. I don't want anything coming in completely for free, and like I said, I'm crippled at this point. There isn't too much I can do, so I'm just going to click Scald here, get a little bit of damage off onto the Latios, try and get Toxic damage to rack up a little bit. Even though he does have the leftovers, Toxic damage obviously does more over time. We are going to live the first Draco Meteor, as you just saw. We're probably not going to live the second one, so I'm just going to go for another Scald once again, and as you're going to see here, he actually decides to switch out. Once again, I assume he didn't think he could knock me out with another Draco Meteor, and instead he is going to go right back out into his Komala, which I'm okay with, because this once again just allows me to switch out into my Buzzwole. So Scald's going to go off. It's not going to do a lot of damage to this Komala. He's left with the same choice once again. He can either go for the Rapid Spin, get rid of my Spikes, and allow me to roost with my Buzzwole, or he can go for the U-turn, allow Spikes to stay up on his side of the field, and prevent me from roosting. As I'm going to see here, he's going to opt to go for the U-turn. That will prevent me from roosting, but once again, Spikes are still up on his side of the field, so I'm very happy about it. And he is going to go right out into his Latios. Now, funnily enough, I believe with the amount of HP that I'm at, I have a very slight chance to live a Psyshock, because I'm like fully physically defensive. Probably not. I'm probably just making that up. But basically at this point, Mantine is useless. It's at a relatively low amount of HP. It's crippled with a Choice Scarf. There's really not much it's going to be doing for me the rest of this game. So I'm just going to switch... I'm going to switch right back out into that, just to stack it off, just so that I can go right out into something like my Jirachi on the following turn, just to threaten his team. So Draco Meteor is going to come out. it's going to be able to knock me out, and we are going to go down. However, he is now at -2. He's locked, or he's not locked in the Draco Meteor because he tricked away his Scarf. However, he is at a very low amount of HP, and I can go into pretty much whatever I want in order to revenge this thing, although Jirachi seems like it is currently the best option at this point. So as you're going to see here, I'm actually going to go out into Greninja. Silly me, I lied to you the whole time. Greninja also doesn't have a switch in, like he can't switch anything into this whatsoever, and I'm just going to go for Specs for Dark Pulse and knock this thing out. Because again, like there's just nothing he could have done at that point. So Dark Pulse is going to go out, going to knock that thing out. He is now going to go out into his Diggersby, which I don't want to stay in against because I can't knock it out with Dark Pulse if he's not Scarfed, and if he is Scarfed like I think he is, he can just straight up OHKO me with Return. So what I'm actually going to do is hard switch out into my Buzzwole. It did its job for the majority of this game. I have ways to deal with the Komala, and all I need this, pretty much all I need this, Jesus Christ, talking is really, really difficult. Wow, I can't even apologize for how hard talking is because I can't apologize properly because English is really hard. Buzzwole's gonna die, Diggersby's gonna get the kill, and then I can go out into my Jirachi because I think he's Scarfed, click Iron Head, and then possibly win the game. Because if he's not Scarfed Diggersby, then Greninja wins, and if he is Scarfed Diggersby, then this Jirachi plus Greninja wins, and we're in a happy place. So I'm just gonna click Iron Head. There's really not much he can do about it. He's gonna go out into his Komala in order to sack this thing off. As you can see, your Comatose is going to activate, but it doesn't matter because Iron Head is just going to pick up the kill on this thing. And then pretty much the only thing he can do at this point is go back out. Or actually, no, what he's going to do is go out into his Whimsicott. And I was a little bit confused at first. I was like, okay, he's probably going to have the stun spore like I thought. So he's going to go for that here, and he's going to be able to knock me out. However, or he's going to be able to paralyze me. However, he's actually going to reveal the Memento, which is annoying. It's not too bad. It is kind of annoying, but it's not the worst thing in the world. He's going to go for the Memento, lower my attack by 2 stages, which means that the only chance he has of winning is of not getting flinched by Diggersby, and he's able to knock out my Jirachi as well as my Greninja. So, as you're going to see here, Diggersby is going to come out. I'm just going to click Iron Head. It's my best play. Even if he's a setup variant, I don't think he'd be Dual Dance plus Quick Attack in order to deal with Greninja. So even if he gets up in Agility, I should be okay because I do have Water Shuriken on Greninja. He's going to end up not getting flinched by the Iron Head, and he will be able to knock me out with what I assume is a Choice Scarf Earthquake. We are going to go down, but then what we can do is go right out into our Greninja once again, and this time I am guaranteed to knock him out with a Water Shuriken even if I only get 2 hits. So not risking him being Scarf, going to go for that priority Water Shuriken, going to hit him once, going to do a lot of damage, and we're going to hit him a second time, and that is going to be the game, and we are going to win 2-0 over ItzGator of the Florida Gatrs. So this was a pretty intense game. I feel like I pretty much had initiative throughout the entire game, like especially being able to get rid of his Heatran so early on. Like his Heatran literally did absolutely nothing. Switched into my Jirachi once and then it went down to a Hydro Pump. I was able to put on enough offensive pressure early on to the point where he was put on the back foot, and then I had responses to pretty much everything he had. Hawlucha was not able to break through my Mantine until it set up. Even Roserade getting that spike up was very important so that he couldn't constantly like freely switch into Komala on Scalds. He would still be taking the spikes damage plus the Scald damage. Like I said, getting rid of Heatran so early was really, really nice for my Jirachi, even though I didn't get to use it too much during the game. Just having that giant threat of Jirachi be healthy and be able to just spam Iron Head across the entirety of his team was really nice. Being able to switch into Buzzwole on the Diggersby was also really good. Like, there wasn't too much he could do against my team, I feel like. Scarf Latios definitely could have put in some work. Had he been very aggressive turn 1 and clicked Thunder Wave expecting my Jirachi to come in, that could have been really big. But, like I said, I didn't think he'd want to predict that early turn 1 because of the, like, Thunder Wave's Natural Cure Roserade. There's just, you know, he hasn't really done much. And if I get up a free Spike, then that's unfortunate for him. If I just get off damage with Sludge Bomb, that's unfortunate for him. The T-Wave miss definitely could have sucked on Mantine. If I had gotten fully parried on a couple crucial turns, that would have been like very, very bad for me. The high jump kick missed on Zygarde. As you saw, I didn't end up going into Zygarde for the rest of the game, but it was just really good for peace of mind, and I assume that just frustrated him a little bit because he's already on the back foot, and then Hax takes him down even lower. And again, for me, like, having a full health Zygarde was super, super nice to have, because if I ever had to deal with Diggersby, I could have had Zygarde if I went into a free switch, because Zygarde lives Scarf Return. You know, I could have even lived a hit from the Whimsicott and hit it with an HP. I could have lived a Moonblast relatively easily. if I needed to hard switch into Kamala, I could have done that if I'm at full health, whereas if I'm at 20-30% wherever I would have been after the high jump kick, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So the miss, while it may not have mattered in the end result, it was still very good just for my mental state, and probably not very good for his mental state during the game. But yeah, that's going to be the game. I think the team performed pretty much perfectly. Greninja put on a shit ton of offensive pressure, so did Zygarde, so did Jirachi. Buzzwole even put on some good offensive pressure despite the fact that it was fully physically defensive. Roserade did one thing, and that one thing was still very useful for his team. Getting up that spike was very nice for the Whimsicott as well as the Komala. And then Mantine kind of just walled the majority of his team until he was able to trick a Choice Scarf. So that's the game. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Next week, we are going to be going up against George, Sceptile MC of the San Francisco Arcaniners, and that is a rematch I am really looking forward to. If you guys don't know, last season in the GBA, we ended up losing to him on a 30% roll. If we had gotten the roll in our favor, we would have ended up winning that game 0-0 and making it to the playoffs. However, because we were unable to win, we lost out on our playoff spot, and George actually then went on to win the championship. So I am really, really looking forward to this rematch. I hope you guys are as well. Once again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you in the next game.